Assalamualaikum. We are from Group 4. We'll present about subnetting IPv4 addressing using packet tracer. So before we start, I will introduce our team member, which is firstly we have Muhammad Hairul Amiri. Secondly is Muhammad Daniel. Thirdly, we have Diana Balkish, and lastly is me, Sofiana Jiha. So we will start our presentation for introduction about what is IP address. So what is IP address? IP address is a numerical label assigned to each device connected to a computer that uses the IP protocol for a communication. An IP address acts as an identifier for a specific device on a particular network and specifies the technical format of the addressing and packet scheme, and most of the network is combined IP with TCP. It also develops a virtual connection between a destination and a source. IP address also called as IP numbers or internet numbers. Next, I will explain about IPv4. So what is IPv4? IPv4 is an IP version widely used to identify device on a network using an addressing system. It was the first of IP deployed for production in the ARPANET in 1983. So it used a 32-byte address scheme to store 2 to the power of 32 address, which is more than 4 billion address, and it considered the primary internet protocol, and it carries 90% of internet traffic. IPv4 also called as a dotted decimal or dotted code, and it can be any value between 0 and 255. IPv4 is common use on the internet nowadays. Next, I will explain about key features of IPv4. Firstly, it is a connectionless protocol and it requires a less memory. So when it requires less memory, it's easier to remember the address. IPv4 also supported protocol by millions of devices and offer videos libraries and conference. For this part, I will explain about what is subnet mask. A subnet mask comprises 4 bytes and it's written in the same notation as an IP address. For TCP or IP work, you need a subnet mask. The subnet mask also complements an IP address, and by applying it to the IP address, it determines what subnet an IP address belongs to. IP address has 2 components, which is network address and the host address. Subnetting further divides the host part of IP address into a subnet and host address if additional subnetwork are needed. In effect, it masks an IP address, divides the IP address into a network address and host address. Next is our task in hand and the solutions. So for this section, we will discuss how to subnetting the assigned network. Secondly is addressing table. Thirdly is configuration the device. And lastly, test and troubleshoot the network. For the configuration and test troubleshoot part, we will show demonstrations using Cisco Packet Tracer. So that's all for our introductions. I will pass this presentation to our next presenter, which is Muhammad Daniel.
Hello, Assalamualaikum. My name is Muhammad Daniel. I'm bin Muhammad Rosli. Today I'm going to discuss some question. Okay, this is the first question that 1F. Given each of the possible subnet masks depicted in the following binary format, how many subnets and how many hosts are created in each example? So the first question is we need to find the subnet, how many subnet and how many hosts are created. Okay, that's the keyword, and there are the hints in the question where we need to remember that the number of host bits to the power of 7 defines the number of hosts per subnet minus 2. and the number of subnet bits to the power of 2 defines the number of subnets. The subnet bits shown in bold are in the bits that have been borrowed beyond the original network mask of /24. The /24 is the prefix notation and corresponds to a dot decimal mask of 255.255.255.0. Okay, the first question is already given. This is the first question. Oh, sorry. This is the first question. Dotted decimal subnet mask equivalent. I already made my calculation and my answer is 255.255.255.128. So we need to find the number of subnets and the number of hosts. As you can see, there's already the formula in the hint, and we need to use the hint to answer this question. So I got 2 subnet 2 to the power of 1 and 128 hosts to the power of 7 minus 2, and then I got 126 hosts per subnet. Okay, the reason why I got 2 to the power of 7 is this is there are seven zeros behind this one, the bold one, as you can see. There are 7 zeros and we need to apply in the parameter. I'm sorry. Okay, on to the next one. This is the second question. It is quite similar to the first, so I'm just going to read the question. Dotted decimal subnet mask equivalent. We need to find the same thing as the first question, where the dotted decimal subnet mask equivalent. And I already made my calculation, and the answer will be 255.255.255.192. And the number of subnets, we need to use the formula that on the previous slide and the hint. So I got 4 subnets to the power of 2 and 64 hosts to the power of 6 minus 2, and then I got 62 hosts per subnet. Again, the reason why I got 2 to the power of 2 to the power of 6 is because there are 6 zeros in this number, so I need to use the 6 as the power of the 2. Okay, that's all from me. I thank you, and I will let Khairul Amirin for the next presentation.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Muhammad Hairul Amirin bin Muhammad Raimi, and today I will present about addressing table. So for today I will present the addressing table. We can look at the question. Fill in the missing IP address in the addressing table. Assign IP address based on the following criteria. Use the ISP network setting as an example. And A, assign the first subnet to LAN A. Number 1, use the first host address for the customer router interface connected to LAN A switch. So we can look at the diagram. The first address is located at the gigabyte 00, and the IP address is this. For the subnet mask is 26, and when we change to binary we will get this number. So and 1 111111 binary, we will get 255 decimal. And for the 11000000 binary, we will get 192 decimal. So, and for the decimal 26, we will get 255.255.255.192, and we will copy this. And this number will become 255, this will become 255, this 255, and lastly 192. So for the next question, use the second host address for the LAN A switch. Make sure to assign a default gateway address for the switch. If the if the switch is 0.5, the second will become 0.2. Change it to 0.2. For the subnet mask, we still the same because it located at the same subnet. We just copy. And for the default gateway, will be the same address like customer router, because gigabyte 00 is default gateway for all the subnet. For the next question 3, use the last host address for PCA. Make sure to assign a default gateway address for the PC. So use the last host. So at here I have provided the last IP host. And for the subnet mask is still the same. And the default gateway is IP address of gigabyte 00 on the router of PCA. Next, for the question B, assign the second subnet to LAN B. For the interface router, the interface is this was IP host for the second subnet. For the subnet mask is still the same. So let's move on to question 2. Use the second host address for the LAN B switch. Make sure to assign a default gateway address for the switch. For question 2, same like question 2A. When when it's 65 and in LAN B it will become 66. For and for the subnet mask, still the same. So for the default gateway for LAN LAN B and PCB is the IP address of gigabyte 01 here on the router. Gigabyte 01. And for the last question, B3, use the last host address for PCB. Make sure to assign a default gateway address for the PC. So for the IP address, we use the last IP host from second subnet. Here. And for the subnet mask, still the same. Copy and paste. And for the default gateway, we use the 0.65, which is the gigabyte 01 interface. And that's all. That's it. We have complete the addressing table. So this is last for me. Thank you. Next, I will pass the presentation to my friend Diana.
Assalamualaikum and hi everyone, my name is Nordana Balkish. So today I'm going to show you guys demonstration about configuration the device and demonstration about test and troubleshoot the network. Configure the device. Configure basic setting on the PC, switch and router. Refer to addressing table for device name and address information. So step 1, configure customer router. This is the customer router. Double-click on customer router. Click CLI, command line interface. Click enter. Enable. Configure terminal. For the router configure, you need the host name, which is customer router. And then set the enable secret password on customer router to class 123. Enable secret class 123. And then set the console login password to Cisco 123. Line console 0 password Cisco 123. Make sure the C is capital letter and then click login to enable the password. Configure customer router as the hostname for the router. So we already did this one on here. Router hostname is customer router. So then we have to configure the gigabyte 00 and gigabyte 01 interface with IP address and subnet mask and then enable them. So you have to refer your addressing table for the gigabyte 00 interface. How you're gonna do? You click exit and then interface gigabyte 00 IP address 168.0. Click no shutdown to enable the interface gigabyte 00. Then click enter. Interface gigabyte 01 IP address so this is the gigabyte 01 IP address and then you click enter. Oh, we have a mistake. Purchased. Oh, doesn't this one. Sorry. Careless mistake. And then and then you have to click no shutdown to enable the interface and click enter. Save the running configure to the setup configuration file. So how you're going to do this, you click N and then you type enter, copy, running config, startup config. Then you click enter and then you click enter again and then you're done. Step 2. Configure the two customer LAN switch. Configure the IP address on interface VLAN 1 on the two customer LAN switch. Make sure to configure the correct default gateway on each switch. So how we're going to do this step 2 is you click on the LAN A, choose CLI command line interface, click enter, enable, configure terminal, interface VLAN 1 and then you have to follow the addressing table for the LAN A switch VLAN 1 which is this one. You click IP address 168.0.2. Then you click enter, no shutdown to enable the interface of VLAN 1. click enter, and then we have to configure the default gateway. You click exit, IPv4 gateway, then you click enter. And don't forget the host name. This is really important. Host name, LAN. Make sure the capital letter is correct. Now you click enter. So for the LAN B, it's the same as a LAN A. You double click on the LAN A, choose CLI command line interface, click enter, enable, configure terminal, click interface VLAN 1, IP address. So for this one, you have to follow the LAN B switch, which is this one. Click enter, no shutdown to enable the IP address. Click enter, exit, IP default gateway, and also don't forget the host name, which is LAN B, capital letter, okay? Click, and then you settle for the step 2. Okay, then for the step 3, configure the PC interface. Configure the IP address, subnet, and default gateway setting on PCA and PCB. So how you're gonna do this? You click on the PCA, you choose desktop, and then IP configuration. Open your addressing table, and you have to key in this IP address, subnet mask, default gateway into this. Okay, so first 192.168.0.6, and this one is 192, and the default gateway 192.168. And then you cut this, and then for the PCB, you do the same thing. You click on desktop, IP configuration, and you key in this one, okay, into this. So the IP address 216.80, and then this one 251. Sorry. So you just have to change here, which is 196.192, and then default gateway 191.168.0.65. You can just click. So that's was how you're doing the step 3. Now we continue to the part 3, test and troubleshoot the network. Okay guys, after you done part 2 and you settle for the step 1, step 2 and step 3, you can continue with part 3, which is test and troubleshoot the network. So what you're going to do in this part 3 is you're going to determine if PCA can communicate with default gateway or not, and you're going to do for the PCB as well, and you have to make sure that you get reply from PCA and PCB. So what you're going to do is you click on the PCA, choose desktop, click on the command prompt, ipconfig, and then you click on your addressing table for PCA, which is this one. You click ping, so you can see that you get reply from these two, and you can see that you get reply for default gateway in PCA. So you continue for PCB. You do the same thing as well, which is choose desktop, command prompt, ipconfig, and then you click ping 192.168.0.65, which is this one, and then you click enter to see if you get reply or not. See, you get reply for default gateway in PCB. So next, determine if PCA can communicate with PCB and see if you get reply or not. So you go to the PCA, you click enter, you type ping, and you follow the and then you enter this one. You enter this one to see if PCA and PCB can communicate or not. So since you get reply, means that PCA can communicate with PCB. So that's it from me. And we done for the part 2 and part 3. Thank you so much.
So that's it from me. I will pass this presentation back to my friend Sofia Najihal.
Our resources to complete this task is we use YouTube as our resources because it helps us to understand more about this topic. We also search in a website to get more information about this topic, and we ask our friend and lecturer as our reference. We also use Cisco for solve this task. For wrap this presentation, if you have any questions or any inquiries, you can send it to us or leave it on a comment below. So that's all from me and my group. Thank you for spending your time and see you soon.